Welcome to the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Welcome to ITSP Magazine. You're listening to a new Two Cyber Chicks podcast. You're about to join Erika and Jax for an inclusive cybersecurity conversation designed to educate and break the stereotypes of cybersecurity professionals while providing life hacks on how to handle burnout, networking, and goal setting. Knowledge is power, now more than ever.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another amazing episode. Erika, are you ready for this?
I'm so ready.
I'm ready to dive into the world of cybersecurity, our passion area, and we're going to be talking about one of our favorite things, GRC.
GRC, whoop whoop.
I'm excited. I'm really, really excited today because we have the privilege of hosting a truly remarkable guest, Lupe Peterman, with an impressive career spanning 16 years in the insurance industry and then a recent pivot into information security. Lupe is a passionate professional that everybody's going to be able to see today or hear if you're listening to this, who really strives to help clients reduce security risk and improve decision-making. Lupe's journey as a first-generation immigrant has greatly shaped her professional outlook, where she has learned to transform her challenges into unique learning opportunities, showcasing her resilience and resourcefulness. Her unique combination of experience in insurance and cybersecurity has allowed her to offer her clients a unique perspective, helping them navigate risk and uncertainty. So today, Lupe is a thriving nerd, just like Erika and I. So we are thrilled to be able to nerd out with her again on a favorite topic that we love to talk about, GRC. So Erika, are you ready to bring our guest on the show?
Come on, Lupe. Come join us.
Do it.
Lupe. And voila, she has arrived.
So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You look so lovely. How are you doing? Do you feel good? You ready for this?
I'm so ready. Yes.
Talk about one of your favorite topics. Because, I mean, you've been in the career field, like in total with school, what is that, 3 years?
3 years in total, yeah.
Yeah, and you went from 16 years, a career in insurance, and a lot of people would have just assumed, heck, why don't I just stay in insurance? But you did not decide to do that. Instead, you decided to do a complete career pivot. And I would love for us to be able to kick it off with you sharing a little bit about your journey of that transition. Kind of what did it look like going from insurance into information security, and what was your big motivation behind that shift?
Yeah. So like you said, I was in insurance for 16 years, and I was passionate about the work I was doing. I was happy. I was thriving. I saw myself progressing in that field and thought that I was going to retire from insurance. But then, at some point, I started feeling like I wasn't being challenged. I started feeling unfulfilled, and I was not happy, and that went on for about a couple of years. And I kind of had, an inner talk with myself and just said, hey, you're not going to retire anytime soon. You still have a good amount of years left. Do you want to be miserable for those years? And ultimately I decided that's not what I wanted to do. And so with the support of my husband, thinking and considering all the pros and cons, I decided to enroll in a master's program in information security. So that was the first step. I had a friend who was actually also pursuing a degree in information security. And, I talked to her, and it just seemed like such an interesting and fascinating industry. And I said, you know what, I have to do that. That's what I want to do. And yeah, so, I got accepted into this program, and I'm proud to say that I graduated this past spring. It's been a long 2 years. And, I was fortunate enough to be able to secure a role in information security, even while I was in school. I had initially thought that I would have to wait until I graduated and then start interviewing then. But, the pieces fell into place, and I was prepared, and opportunity presented itself. So I was able to secure this role, and I'm just grateful and feel like it's the best decision I've made in my career.
Yeah, I mean, so many people that listen to this podcast are struggling with trying to break in. And this is for some people, it can take 1 to 2 years. And you recognize that you were fortunate to be able to get into a role like this, even while you were still in school. And that's, I mean, you have such positive energy about you too. And that's what I really love when we first connected on LinkedIn is like your positive mindset and your viewpoint. And I love that you were talking about how you were kind of sitting there and you're like, I'm miserable and I want to do something different. And that took a lot of self-reflection. Have you always been this person that's been kind of like self-reflection and really kind of like thinking about what do I really want to do in my life? Or was this something that transpired as you had gotten older and you were just reaching a point of like, okay, I can either stay put and just be, like you said, really miserable, or it's really time to make that change?
I wasn't always this way. It's something that I think comes with age. And yeah, I like you mentioned, I was very unhappy with what I was doing. And I didn't want to live the rest of my career life that way. So, I had, two choices. I could either stay and do what I was doing, or try something different. And I truly believe that, if you want something really badly, you can make it work. You can make it come true. Obviously, it's going to take sacrifice. It's going to take hard work, determination. It's not going to come easy, but if you truly want something, you can make it happen. It's going to happen if you go for it. And it's just taking that first step, I think. Everyone I had some people tell me like, oh, you're crazy. You've been doing this for so long. And I wasn't at the start of my career. I had been in this, as a professional working for many years. And so some people thought I was crazy and I should just stick it out. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not me.
I love that. You have to pick your heart. And that's something that, we all know, right? It's like, it would be hard to stay put in a job that you don't necessarily love. It's going to be hard to tackle a new challenge, to learn something that you don't know, and that you're kind of taking a gamble, in a certain way, because you don't know if you're going to love it or how much you're going to love it, right? Like you could have gone through, I know people that'll study an entire, formal degree, and then they're like, do I really want to go and be a doctor? And then they're like, all right, I'm not even going to finish, going down this path, and I'm going to pivot. And then before you know it, they've changed majors like 4 times, right? So we all know that. I was also going to say, it's super fun that you had a friend to do this with, because that's super cool. She said, I'm doing this. And you said, information security sounds pretty cool. Sign me up. Jax and I love to do things together. So I was going to say, it's really fun that you had kind of like an accountability buddy, somebody to kind of like talk things through. Did she also graduate just in the spring with you?
So she was going for her bachelor's, but she graduated a little less than a year ago. And yeah, it's great to have someone to bounce ideas off of. And
and you're creating your own network now. Like you're in a position now where you're talking to fellow cybersecurity peeps. You're starting to make those connections. You're starting to understand like the landscape. So I know while you feel relatively new, as I was telling you before we click record, you're actually a seasoned veteran in the cybersecurity space, because the amount of information that we consume, the amount of learning that we do just in 1 year, it really is. It's multiple years worth of information. I am going to do a little pivot. I've been so excited to ask you this question because as a fellow first generation immigrant, Latinas representing in the house today, I wanted to ask you your background, right? Like, how do you think that has played a role in who you are today in your career, how you show up professionally?
It's been a great influence in my career and personal development. Watching my parents hustle every day, working. My dad at times would work 2 jobs to provide for us. My mom was very resourceful. She couldn't work because she had to watch us. We were still little. But she would, find ways to make money and extra cash and help my dad out. She'd watch and babysit other people's kids. She'd cook and sell food at local festivals. Anything that she could come up with to make extra cash and help my dad out, she would do. And they just never quit. They never gave up. They faced a lot of challenges in this country. They didn't speak the language. They still managed to communicate, hand gestures and broken English, but they still did it. And, their main purpose for immigrating to the US was to provide us, their children, for a better life, better opportunities, right? And I couldn't see that go to waste. So me doing something that I was unhappy doing was, kind of letting them down in a way, right? Because they brought us here to do what we wanted to do and to follow our dreams. And so that definitely influenced my decision, and it influences how I work every day. I always give my all. And if things go wrong, I just shake it off as best I can and, move on. And it's not always perfect. There are days and there are circumstances where I do feel defeated, but, that comes and goes, and I just keep at it.
Si se puede, right? That's
Exactly.
what I always say. I'm like, there is no challenge too big. We are going to keep going at it, and we're going to, conquer all of our wildest dreams. I think that is something so beautiful, that, as children coming to this country, learning a language, like learning the lay of the land, like having these opportunities, I think it's just so wonderful. And I think that's something that all of us have, in common, is this, like, we saw what our parents, had in mind for us. Like, they had these dreams for us. And so for us, it's like, we can't do them a disservice. And so we all want to not only make them proud, like make our entire, like, home country proud. Right. So I think it's awesome. I love what you're representing today. I love what you're doing. You're making your children proud, your family proud, your parents, everybody here. And I'm just so excited to be having this conversation with you today and learning more about you.
Thank you. And it's great. I mean, as women in general, we know that this is a male-dominated industry. We're slowly paving the way, but also seeing another fellow Latina in this industry is really something special.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
I'm loving this. This is so exciting. Oh, all the love. I'm feeling virtual hugs going on right now. This is so exciting. And if you guys are watching this on YouTube, you can see how just smiley and amazing this is. So you are in the GRC space, governance, risk, and compliance. Love this space. Personally came from cyber threat intel, kind of knew the GRC space, but not really. Obviously, this has been Erika's, like, where she's been.
Bread and butter.
That's funny. I was going to say that. I was like bread and butter, but I didn't. And I love it. I love it because it's so diverse and you can do so much. And you were talking about, like, this is your first job, and something we like to do on this show is demystify cybersecurity and, like, really simplify kind of what this job looks like, because it's so different for every person. And you're involved with working with various different companies and helping them increase their overall cybersecurity in GRC. And you do this by leveraging different frameworks, helping them develop and establish different policies and procedures. So considering the vast range of responsibilities that you likely have taken on in your position, can you take a moment, just paint a picture for us of what a normal, typical day may look like for you when you go to the office, or if you go to the office, or if you work remote?
Yeah, I'm fortunate to be working remote. But yeah, my day-to-day, as I'm sure you can both agree, varies from day to day. It's never the same. Today's never like yesterday, and it's hard to predict what tomorrow is going to bring. But in essence, I work on different projects that span maybe a couple of weeks. And so far in the year that I've been in the industry, I've gotten to do a vast array of different types of projects and work with different types of clients. And so, it's been a whirlwind, but it's been a joyride, definitely. Like you mentioned, I've done risk assessments for clients. I've done some tabletop exercises, and I'm still in the learning phase, but I participate in those and learn from my peers as we go along and work with clients. So it's kind of all over the spectrum, and I work on different things, which I love because I get to learn how to do all of it.
So what is, before I pass it over to Erika, if somebody's listening and they're wanting to break into the GRC space, what is one piece of advice that you would provide them that you wish you knew before you broke in and got your first job within the space?
I guess I'd have to say, reading about conducting these types of projects is different from actually performing them. I feel like I've learned more on the job than I did probably reading about them during my master's program. So I would say to anyone that's looking to get into it, try and get that hands-on experience because it's really going to come in handy.
Yeah, that's great advice. Any labs, hands-on exercises that you can do are going to give you a lot more than just like studying for a test, right? Because we can all memorize things and take a test. So third-party management, like third-party vendor management in particular. I spent some time in this space. It's a space that I personally love. I know that you're spending a lot of time doing some third-party risk management. I want to talk about third-party risk. Like, I love this stuff. So let's talk about what types of risks are you seeing today, right? Like, what are you seeing come up more frequently when you are performing these assessments? Are there specific areas that you're seeing trends or areas that you think organizations should be spending more time on?
I think the most common ones that I see are lacking privileged access controls, like they're not performing regular reviews of their privileged account access. I'd also say not providing proper training, secure code training to their application developers. And also, I've seen quite a few not having a third-party risk management program in place, which is kind of ironic. But I'd say that those are probably the three most common ones that I'm seeing.
Man, okay. So the riskiest one of all sounds like not having a function at all. Because you can't secure anything if you don't have anything to start with, right?
Exactly.
It's denial. It's the denial that we do in our world.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a denial. It's not there. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Right.
There's no risk if I can't quantify it or if I don't know it's there.
If you don't admit it, it's not a problem.
Yeah. So, I mean, what are these organizations doing that don't have third-party risk management functions? Like, do they just think that the risk doesn't exist? Do they think that they can mitigate all the risk? Like, what kind of vibes are you getting?
I think some of it might be they don't have the proper resources in place. Depending on the size of the organization, they might have a handful to hundreds of vendors that they have to assess. So I think probably getting the program off the ground is intimidating, and that might be a reason why they don't tackle it.
Yeah,
that's valid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with anything, I think you got to make it into like bite-sized chunks, right? That's why you do a risk assessment so that you can kind of like tier the vendors.
Right. You have to
can figure out,
right?
Like, let me do a chunk of them each quarter. Like, let me start figuring out like what the threat landscape looks like. So I'm going to ask you, do you believe that it is possible to just entirely mitigate third-party risk within an organization?
I would say that I don't believe it can be entirely mitigated. I think that, like I said, conducting third-party risk assessments, it's kind of a snapshot in time of the security posture at the moment that you do the assessment, but things can change. There's, like we all know, emerging threats. The controls in place might not be adequate, or they might become obsolete. Things like that. So, it's important to always, conduct regular assessments and monitor third parties because of that change that it happens rapidly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why, taking that risk-based approach, putting in mitigating controls, having that function established is just so important because that's going to be an ever-changing threat landscape, right? So I'm with you. I would have answered the same thing, but it's just really important. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, so it's really important, I think, just for people to understand that, like, the risk just needs to be, you need to be aware, right? So, like, know what you have, know your vendors. I mean, we were talking about this a little bit when we were talking about vendor management. Like, it is incredible how many people don't even know what vendors they've contracted or like what information they're sharing with their vendors. If you don't know what information your vendors have, then you don't know what that classification of data is. Then you don't know what the risk is there, right? Like it's just this like downstream effect of risk, right? So absolutely. I think that this is something that needs to be just managed. And I hope that anybody listening out here is just like, yeah, vendor risk management is really important. I should learn more about that, or I should make sure my organization has something in place.
Absolutely.
So, while we're here, I know that either we've got some listeners or we've got some people tuning into the video. They want to watch your journey. They want to see, all of the amazing things that you're going to accomplish throughout your career. What is the best way for some of our listeners or viewers to follow your journey?
I think the best way would be to connect with me through LinkedIn. That's primarily the best way to contact me.
Awesome. So Lupe Peterman on LinkedIn. You heard it here first. So we are so excited that you came on the show, Lupe. Thank you so much for sharing your insight, your experience, and all of your wisdom with us today.
And thank you both for having me. It's been fun.
So much fun. All right. So that concludes our show today, guys. For all of our listeners, viewers, wherever you are tuning in from, please make sure to like, subscribe, and to catch us on our next episode. If you have any episode suggestions, whether it is topics you want to hear about, whether it's guests you'd like to see on our show, please shoot us an email at 2cyberchicks@gmail.com. That is 2 and then cyberchicks@gmail.com. We will see you on the next one. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of 2 Cyber Chicks podcast with Erika and Jax. If you learned something new and this podcast made you think, then share itspmagazine.com with your friends, family, and colleagues. If you represent a company and wish to associate your brand with our conversations, sponsor one or more of our podcast channels. We hope you will come back for more stories and follow us on our journey. You can always find us at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society.